I wanna suck your blood. No, I'm just kidding. Besides, vampires aren't like that anymore. This was probably the first vampire anime I have seen, and if it wasn't for the lovely people at GMAS, I probably would have not watched it. So how far would you go to revive someone, even though your intentions are kind of evil? Hello everyone, I'm Joe and Newin. Welcome to another edition of Newin Anime Review, and this episode, Blood Lad. Vampires used to be seen as fearsome creatures back in the day, but these days they are usually seen as heroes or anti-heroes. The story begins as a normal day of a vampire named Stas Charlie Blood, his own territory boss, until Fuyumi Yanagi, an ordinary human girl, wanders herself into the demon world and is taken to Stas. Now naturally when you think of a vampire, they'll of course suck her blood, but unlike his ancestors, he avoids attacking humans. However, Stas does find interest in her, until she is killed and turned into a ghost. So the main premise of the show is that Stas is trying to find a way to resurrect Fuyumi back to a normal human again, so he can find the satisfaction he had for her when she was alive, because when she turned into a ghost, he lost that attraction. It's a basic plot, but following the story is kind of hard. The show is only 10 episodes long, and usually one episode contains around 3 different plots. The story jumps around a lot, and that can be confusing. It felt really rushed that even in the end wasn't satisfying, because it felt like it was just setting up for something much bigger. This in turn is kind of disappointing because I was really interested and hooked into the world of Blood Lad. The demon world is such a unique and interesting place that the writers were able to put all these supernatural creatures from vampires, werewolves, Frankenstein into one place, and it actually made sense somehow. Because there are so much things going on, it's quite easy to miss something along the way. Stas Charlie Blood is the main protagonist of the show. He is the boss of the territory in the demon world. He is rather powerful, often usually able to defeat any opponent, and that is proven further down the track as he becomes stronger. What you probably didn't expect is that Stas is also an otaku. He is obsessed with Japanese culture, whether it's video games or manga, but it's more like he's obsessed with the human world, as hinted when he saw Fuyumi. Despite looking unreliable, he is dependable. Once he's made up his mind, he tries very hard to achieve his goal. Even though he may not look like it, he has enough motivation to. What I like about this character is the mystery surrounding his past and his motives, because he has an interesting past, but also his motives are a mystery as well, which really adds to this character. If he didn't have those mysteries surrounding him, he would be a generic never say die character, with a bit of cockiness added. The fact that he's an otaku, many common anime lovers can relate to a protagonist, because to be honest, not a lot of people are fan of vampires because, you know, Twilight. Fuyumi Yanagi is the main female heroine of the series. Actually, I wouldn't say heroine, more of a constant damsel in distress. She's a normal Japanese schoolgirl who accidentally wanders into the demon world and gets herself killed, and therefore she becomes a ghost. Although she's a very kind and supportive person, she is completely useless. Yes, it does make sense since she comes from the human world. It would make sense for her not to have any powers. She's pretty much just around for plot device. She relies a lot on the other characters around her to get things done. She is Stas' driving force, but also everyone else's object, because she literally gets tossed around by everyone. Seriously, she's rather generic and kind of annoying. She's also kind of there for fan service. The only conflict I did enjoy from her as the series went on, she grows accustomed to the demon world, which brings the question, does she want to be human or stay as a demon? But that storyline is short-lived and left unanswered. Belle, Hydra and Wolf are the other main characters of the show. Belle is mischievous, treasure hunter, and her defining appearance is her oversized big ass backpack. She's around to pretty much ruins people's day. She's not evil, but she's just very tricky, which can annoy other people. And I like her interaction with Stas because she rivals him. Wolf is Stas' friend and rival. Not much can be said about him other than he's wild. His motivation for helping Stas is because he simply has a crush on Fuyumi. But even he was barely given enough screen time to be interesting. Most of the characters have an interesting backstory and past. Because of the runtime of the show and how short the anime was, it wasn't fully explored. Most of the characters had a few episodes to shine, but there wasn't enough development in them. Even the later characters that were introduced in the series had a hidden agenda, but most of them were left unanswered, and you're wondering, why were they even introduced in the first place? And because the ending is left open-ended, the character development felt like one little piece of a puzzle for something much greater. This was probably Bloodlad's strongest point lies, which is the art style. It's a unique art style. All the characters besides Fuyumi have the evil anime eyes, so you can't really tell who's good and who's bad, which I like. Also, the demon world is surprisingly full of colours. Everything really looks unique, and because they jump around the demon world a lot, you can see a lot of different settings. Also, all the characters look unique as well, and they look good. Albeit, the colour scheme is still very basic, and you can see as if some of the backgrounds weren't completed. But that just goes with the art style. The animation does shine some of the fight scenes though. The effects look good, and every character has their own power and animation, which is a really shining point in the anime. But it's too short-lived, most of the fight scenes.
The soundtrack is okay. It's nothing special. The soundtrack does its job in fitting with the mood and the different locations of the show. They have a good mixture of gothic music to fit the theme of the show. I particularly like when they played the punk rock music though. And of course, being a vampire themed anime, you're going to expect some organs here and there. But that's not to say that there are some comedic moments in the show where the sound just fits it perfectly. The opening and ending themes are okay. The ending theme does its job, and the opening is actually pretty good because it sets up the show very well, very perfectly. And it literally tells you what's going to happen in the show. One thing the show does very well is having a character with an otaku background. So despite being a vampire, he is really relatable. But because you have a character based on the otaku population, most of the jokes are either references from anime or different mangas. So if you don't get the reference, you're probably not going to laugh as much. But if you do get the reference, then you actually probably will laugh. So other than parodying and slapstick comedy, they don't have a huge range of jokes. During my time with Bloodlad, I didn't laugh as much unless I got a reference of a joke. And that's only when I got a reference of a joke. And when I didn't get the reference, it just became awkward. The genre surprised me because I was able to see a lot of different supernatural things all in one place, and I got to see the world unfold around them, which is what I like about this show.
For the story of Bloodlad, I give it a 4. For the reason it's incomplete and hard to follow, yet it has a simple premise. Plus the story felt really rushed, and yet it didn't conclude properly. The only thing I really enjoyed was the whole concept of the demon world, as I felt I really needed to see more because it was an interesting world. For the animation sound, I give it a 7 and 6 respectively. The art style is unique, and that's a positive, but its uniqueness may not appeal to too many people, and plus some of it looks basic. But I like how everything is unique and action scenes were great, but short-lived. The sound does its job, and the opening theme sets the anime very well. As far as characters go, they get a 7 for me. Reason being, I think most of them were interesting to a point, but they just weren't fully developed and left out. So I was disappointed. But I did enjoy the characters' interaction with each other, and I think Staz's mystery really adds to him. I did find the characters likable, by the way. For my own personal enjoyment, I give it a 7. I'm not a huge fan on vampires, but the anime was able to create a character I normally don't enjoy as much as a character I like, because he's relatable. And I understood some of the references the anime was making, and it made me laugh, which it should be doing for a comedy series. But I found myself confused sometimes because the story constantly jumps and expects me to be paying attention to everything. It expects to be funny even when I don't get the reference. So after rounding all the scores up, I give Bloodlad a 6 out of 10. It's not a bad anime, it's above average because of its uniqueness and a likable cast of characters. The main character is relatable, however if you don't understand some of the references, you're probably not going to enjoy it as much. I recommend this anime to vampire fans as I think that's the only type of people who may enjoy it because it's hard to follow.
Well, that's it for this edition of Newin Anime Review. Like always, if you want to read the written review, the link is down below in the description, straight to my anime list. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you don't, give it a thumbs down. If you can't be bothered, go watch another video. And with that all said and done, just remember people, if they have a triangle shaped object on their head, they're either dead or a ghost. Sayonara. Ah,